Welcome back, critical thinkers. Today's TEK is G2C. Determine an equation of a line parallel or perpendicular to a given line that passes through a given point. Today's video focuses on determining the equation of a line using the y-intercept and the slope. Our learning objective is to determine the equation of a line using the y-intercept and slope. Now, you will know you have mastered this objective when you are able to determine the equation of a line when given the y-intercept and the slope of that line. Every skill that you're going to learn in this video makes you stronger. I know you can do this, so let's turn your practice into your superpower. Let us first remember an old friend, and that is y equals mx plus b. This is called the slope-intercept form of a line. Why? Because when we put the linear equation into this format, where you have y here, you have a coefficient times x, and you have a number here, you can just look at this and say, the coefficient to x is called our slope. And the number left over is going to be our y-intercept, hence the slope-intercept form of a line. With that, let's take this knowledge and let's move on to do a very simple problem. The directions read, what is the equation of the line that has a slope of negative 2/3 and a y-intercept at 0, -4. Now, we have to remember that if we graphed this, 0, -4 would be, 0 would be our x, and we would go down -4. So this would be 0, -4 right there. And so the y-intercept would be a -4. So I rewrote it, I pulled the information that I needed to out of it, and I said, okay, my slope is a negative 2/3, my b, or y-intercept, is a -4. I know that this is the slope-intercept form of a line, so what I did was I took my negative 2/3, put it in for m, and I got my -4, put it in for b, and I ended up with this equation right here, y equals negative 2/3 x plus a -4. But knowing algebra, we can take that plus a -4 and write it much simpler. And that would be y equals negative 2/3 x. Instead of the plus the -4, we're just going to put -4. Now, this is going to tell us the slope is negative 2/3 and the y-intercept is a -4. Let's look at another example of using the slope-intercept form to write the equation of a line. Our directions read, what is the equation of the line with a slope of -4 and a y-intercept of 0, 1/2? So in our heads, we should be able to see that if we graph this, what would happen is if this is 1, this would be 1/2. So it would go through the axis right at this 1/2 mark. So that is our y-intercept. So I'm just going to take the data and I'm going to write it separately. So I know that my slope is a -4. Now let's talk about this. So the slope is a -4. Now you know that we could write that -4 and put it over 1. We've just turned the -4 into an improper fraction. So when we do that, this -4 becomes our rise, and this 1 becomes our run. So we have a -4 over 1 as our slope. I can take that negative sign and I can shift it to the denominator. So instead of it being -4 over 1, I can turn it into a +4 divided by a -1. Now that changes this drastically when we're looking at the graph, because instead of going down 4 and over 1, what we're going to do is we're going to go up 4 and back 1. So this 4 is my rise, and it's a positive 4. This 1, negative 1, is my run. I also know that this becomes my y-intercept, which means that the y-intercept is at 1/2, and I can change 1/2 into a decimal number by writing it as 0.5. So I'm going to go back to our old friend, which is the slope-intercept form of a line, y equals mx plus b, and I'm going to plug in what I know. I know that my m is -4. I know my b is 1/2. So if I'm going to write the equation of the line that has these characteristics right here, it would be y equals a -4x plus 1/2. Where did I get my -4? I got it from the slope. Where did I get my 1/2? I got it from the y-intercept. Let's look at another example problem. This is very different from the previous two because here we're asked to look at a graph and evaluate it. The directions read, please write the equation for the graphed line. So they want us to look at a graph and they want us to figure out what is the name or what is the equation of that line based upon characteristics that we see in the graph, namely the slope and the y-intercept. So our first task is to determine what is the y-intercept. So I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to make it bigger. So we need to figure out where does the graph cross the y-axis. So the vertical axis right here is my y-axis. Do you see where it crosses the axis? It's here, isn't it? Because the graph is our green line and it's crossing right here. And what's that number? That number is 4, and it's a positive 4. So the y-intercept is equal to 4. Knowing the y-intercept now, we need to determine the slope. Now you know that slope is equal to the rise, how far you go up or down, over the run, which is how far we move to the left or to the right. So the way that we evaluate this when we're looking at the graph is that we're going to start at the y-intercept, and what we want to do is we want to go down and over, and we want to figure out how many blocks, how many units did we go down and over. So it's important when we're looking at this to figure out where does the graph go through an intersection of the grid. So like right here, that intersection of the grid happens here, it happens here, it happens here. And so what I'm looking for is, notice that the grid is here and the graph cuts through it. Here, that doesn't happen. We only have it crossing a horizontal line instead of the intersection of a horizontal and a vertical line. So I want to figure out, how do I move from here to here using just a rise and then a run. So if I'm looking at that, I'm going to drop 1 unit, 2 units. So I'm going down 2 units. And then to get to here, I'm going over 1 unit. So this is a drop of 2 or a -2. And now we're moving to the right, which would be a +1. So my slope would be rise over run, which is a -2 over a +1. And so I wrote that right here so you can see it. The slope is a -2 over a +1, which turns out to be a -2. So let's say that you didn't want to go down, you wanted to go up. So if we do that same process where we're going to try to figure out where does the graph cross the grid so that it matches the vertical and horizontal marks on the grid, that would happen here. So we're going to start at our y-intercept. We're going to go up 1, up 2, Now we're going up, so that's a positive move. But look what happens. To get to the line, we're going to go backwards 1. So that's a negative 1. So the slope in this instance is a positive 2 over a negative 1. What's a positive divided by a negative? It's a negative. So it turns out to be a negative 2. So either if you go up or down, you're still going to get the slope is a negative 2. So with that knowledge, we know that the y-intercept is 4. We know that the slope is a negative 2. We're going to take our old friend y equals mx plus b, and we're going to stick these numbers right where they go. The y-intercept goes here, which is a positive 4. The slope is a negative 2, and it comes right here. So the answer to this question would be y equals a negative 2x plus 4. And that's our final answer. Let's do one more graphing problem. The directions read, please write the equation for the graphed line. So I come over here. This is my graph line. Pretend all this written stuff doesn't exist. I just want you to see the green line, okay? Just the green line. Focus on the green line. And so what's going to happen is we need to find what is the name of this line. What is the equation of this line? It has to be y equals some number times x plus some other number, okay? What are those numbers? What we do is we locate the y-intercept. So if I'm looking at this graph and this is my line, where does it cross the y-axis? This is my y-axis, this is my x-axis. We're looking for the y-intercept, which would be right here, okay? So let's zoom in a little bit closer. What would you say the y-intercept is for this particular graph? Look where it crosses the y-axis. This is negative 4 up here, this is negative 5, and this is negative 6. What do you think it is? Of course, it's negative 5, okay? What you just did was you named the y-intercept. It's a minus 5, a negative 5. This is going to become part of our equation. So now where do we go? We need to figure out what the slope is. And the way you do that is you're going to start right here. Right here, start at your y-intercept, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to locate on the graph, you're going to locate where it crosses the intersection of horizontal and vertical grid marks. Like right here. Look. It crosses here. Right here too. Look, right here. Right here, we get another cross. Let's do one right here. Oh, look, right here. It does right here too. Look at all these. So right there, you can see the grid marks, the horizontal and the vertical grid marks. It crosses through them. So that's the kind of point that I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from here to one of those grid crossing marks. Okay? So I could do here, or I could do from here and go up to here, or I could go from here to here, or I could go from here to here. But guess what? I'm going to choose this, pretending that I didn't see that this grid, that this exists, that this exists, that this exists. I'm going to go and do this one, all right? Just to show you what it looks like. All you're going to do is simplify it. It's not going to be in its simplest form. We're going to have to do that. So how am I going to get from this point to this point? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my rise is a positive 5. The rise is a positive 5. My run is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. My run is going to be a positive 10. So what happens is my slope is going to be my rise over my run, which is going to be a plus 5 over a plus 10. Now, looking at this fraction, can you reduce 5 over 10? It would be 1 over 2, right? So this is our slope in simplified form. So what we're going to do is, if we look over here, if we know that our slope in simplified form is 1 over 2, what that means is, if we rose 1 and came over 2, we should get to the line. And we do. If I go up 1 over 2, I get to the line. Up 1 over 2, get to the line. Up 1 over 2, get to the line. Up 1 over 2, get to the line. Now look, if I connected all of these dots, I get my green line. You know what the slope is. The slope is 1/2. You know what the y-intercept is. The y-intercept is a -5. So we're going to take these two pieces of information using our friend, the slope-intercept form, and we're going to write the equation to this line. I wrote out just what we said with the y-intercept and the slope. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put them into the formula. So my slope is 1/2. My y-intercept is a -5, and look what happens. We get the equation of our line. I also like to call this the name of the line. So this is the equation of the line that they're asking for. So what you just did was you visually looked at a graph, you determined the y-intercept, you determined the slope, and from those two quantities, you determined that the equation in this form, slope-intercept form, would be y equals 1/2 x minus 5. Congratulations. Now it's your turn to take the lead. Let's see how you can apply the skills that we have learned. Our instructions read, please write the name of the equation for the graphed line. This line right here, this green line. What is the equation of this green line? Just to review the steps, you're going to find the y-intercept, and then you're going to find the slope. You're going to put them together using y equals mx plus b to get an equation in slope-intercept form. Remember to show all of your work, and be sure if you can box in your answers, that's great. Your written work should clearly show how you're thinking so that I can follow your logic step by step. If you have any issues or if you have any questions, please ask. You may check your answer on the next slide. Now please pause the video and complete your work. When you're finished, please press play to continue. Here is the answer to the problem, the big reveal. Please pause the video and check your answers. When you're finished, press play to continue. This is it for today's video. If something does not make sense, this is your cue to please ask questions. You can come talk to me or talk to your classmates or your shoulder partners, or you can even try AI for step-by-step explanations. We are all here to help you succeed. You learn best by breaking complex concepts down into smaller, more manageable skills, and that is exactly what we did today. You are turning your practice into your superpower. I believe in you, and I know that you can do this. You are working your way to success. Have a fantastic day.